Welcome back to Napier-Looby Bar Association's Black History Month Spotlight Series. We are at our last video. I am Amber Payne. I serve as the historian for this bar year, and I'm so happy to have
Cynthia Lee, president.
Yes, so we are going to get right into these questions. She's been conducting these interviews, and now she gets to answer and impart her wisdom onto us, and I'm so excited. So of course, you already introduced yourself in your position, but could you tell us how you got connected to Napier-Looby and how you came to Nashville?
Yeah, so I got connected to Napier-Looby. When I moved to Nashville about 4.5 years ago, I knew I wanted to be connected to a Black Bar Association because that's very important to me. So I'd already looked up what's the local Black Bar Association in Nashville. So I pretty much just started coming to the events and just showing up. So that's really how I got connected. And 4.5 years later, here I am. But what's the other part?
Why
did I come to Nashville?
I know how you got connected. Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
That was it, yeah. Thank you so much for that introduction. Now we're going to get into the meat of it all. What drives you in your work? What gets you started? But more importantly, what keeps you going?
I would say it's a multitude of things. I would say it's my upbringing, the belief that there's a real need out there, and also the belief that we're all here for a purpose. And so when I say like my upbringing, I was raised by my mom, and my two aunts are very instrumental in my upbringing, and they lived lives of service. Like I watched them serve in whatever capacity. It didn't even have to be a big way, but they always were trying to help somebody out, show up, volunteer. So it was just ingrained in me from a young start. But also when I think about my upbringing, I did not grow up in a privileged lifestyle. So I know firsthand, whether through my own experiences or through family members' experiences, the issues or the barriers that come with being in certain socioeconomic statuses or whatever. So I know those barriers firsthand. So that also drives me to make the way a little easier for other people. And then there's a real need out there. I've always, ever since I was a little girl, I don't know, I was always been for the underdog or the person who could not advocate for themselves. I remember just growing up, I have a cousin with special needs, and I was always ready to advocate for him if I needed to. And that just has carried on in multiple areas of my life. So there's a real need out there to really help people, and I want to be a part of helping people. And it kind of ties into my last point about purpose. My faith is very important to me, and I believe that God put me here for a purpose. I think that we're all here for a purpose, and I don't want to get to the end of my life and not have lived out the purpose that I'm here for. So the desire to walk in my purpose, whatever that is, it may look different in different seasons, is really what drives me.
I appreciate that, and I can say as someone who served under her, she is definitely walking in her purpose and giving back.
Oh, thank
definitely. You talked a lot about your upbringing, and so, how has being Black and Black history kind of shaped the way you move through your work and kind of influenced your why?
I would say that Black history is woven into my purpose. When I think about Black history and the things that Black people in this country have had to overcome and endure since they've been brought to this country, to me it's a mandate to really walk in my purpose and do things that they could never dream of doing, but also do things that they sacrifice their lives or their health so that me, you, and other Black folks could have a better life. So when I think about their sacrifices and the things that they endured, I feel almost a sense of obligation to make sure I'm carrying forth, not letting their works go in vain, but I'm doing what I can so that I could also make it better for the next generation. So I think Black history, it is one of the main reasons I do what I do, because they sacrifice so that I can stand in a space that was not created for us to stand in. Yeah. So it's important to me.
Absolutely, definitely. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit on how that fuels your legal work specifically?
So I'm a labor and employment attorney. So in my job, I represent a lot of companies and their employment issues, things like that. But I also do pro bono work. So I think about the issues that are the systems that have not been favorable to Black people, that drives my pro bono work, because there are a lot of issues that come from systemic racism or being poor that really impact people's everyday lives, whether it's they end up in the prison system or they end up in a part of town that just doesn't have the best quality of life. And housing, we know, depending on where you're born and what community you live in, you just may not have access to the same resources. So when I think about that, that drives my pro bono work, whether it's doing like clemency petitions or volunteering with the Legal Aid Society, or even I'm on the board of the Legal Aid Society because I believe in its mission of indigent people who cannot afford a civil attorney. So, and I think that's important because I think about a lot of issues, particularly in the Black community, stem from years ago, systemic issues that where Black people just weren't giving a good start in this country. Obviously, they were brought here against their will as enslaved people. So I just think about how even today, we still feel the effects of it. So when I think about like my service beyond my regular job, it really does drive me.
Absolutely. And you give a lot back and, you know, help people in your journey, and we're walking through your purpose. Could you talk about who has helped you along the way? Was there a lesson or a person or mentor perhaps who has helped you either in your professional or personal life that you care to share about?
Oh yeah, there are a number of people who have helped me along the way in various stages of my life, but I have to start with my mom because she was is my foundation. She was the one who taught me how to not only advocate for myself, but also to advocate for others around me. And there was never a time where I ever had any issue that I had to wonder if my mama was going to advocate for me. She was going to advocate. So that really instilled in me really advocacy. We do that as attorneys, we advocate, that's our job. So she instilled it in a different way, but it's all the same. But also she gave me a firm foundation to stand on so that I can do what I do now. But even beyond my mom, my aunts, they showed me the importance of actually showing up because they always showed up. So that's why it's important to me to show up for folks. And I probably do too much, but I do show up for people because I saw my aunts always showing up. They worked hard, they showed up. There have been a number of people who've had a positive impact on my career, my legal career, but I do want to highlight one person, a lady named Barbara Phillips. I can't think of anybody who's had more of an impact on my legal career than Barbara Phillips. She's a retired civil rights attorney, and I met her my third year of law school, and she knew I wanted to do civil rights work, and I met her because I was planning a panel for the 50th anniversary of 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. So I guess Bloody Sunday too. So anyway, and she was supposed to be one of my panelists, and I just, one of my political and civil rights professor introduced me to her, and I went had coffee with her, and I fell in love immediately. And she just took an interest in me, was like, what are you doing after law school? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm probably going to a civil rights organization, maybe a public defender's office. And she was like, you should consider a federal clerkship. And I was like, oh, why would I do that? I don't want to do that. But it was really ignorance, and she opened up my eyes and was like, well, Cynthia, you say you want to do civil rights where a case is litigated in. And I said, oh, I guess federal court. But anyway, saying it to say, she just, even over the years, has exposed me to so much, whether it's within the legal profession or just out in the world. Just looking at her life and her career and her journey, it just inspired me to aspire for more and not to just, well, I never wanted to have a mediocre life, but seeing a life that she lives really inspired me, and how she advocated for me, not just by telling me, oh, you should do this. She picked up the phone and made phone calls on my behalf. Whenever I had a question early on in my legal career, like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? But also, she's just somebody who stayed true to herself, and I love that, and it inspires me to always stay true to myself and do what I really believe in, and use wherever I'm at, whether it's at a law firm or wherever, to use the time that I'm there for good. So anyway, I would say that she's had the biggest impact on my legal career.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned having a coffee with Mrs. Phillips. Wanted to know, who would you want to sit down with in Black history, have a meal, maybe a beverage with, and what about them inspires you, or what would you want to hear from them?
Oh gosh. 2 people.
Okay.
Constance Baker Motley and Angela Davis, who's my shero. But Constance Baker Motley, as you know, she's the first Black woman to be a federal judge. But before she became a federal judge, she was a giant in the civil rights movement. And I think sometimes the works of women during the civil rights movement often get overlooked. But we wouldn't have a Brown versus Board of Education if it was not for Constance Baker Motley. She was the first Black woman to argue before the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. She argued 10 times, I think, and won 9 of those. Wow. She wrote the first draft of Brown v. Board of Education. I know everything gets credited to Thurgood Marshall, who was a giant in his own right. But the Legal Defense Fund would not have been what it was if it had not been for Constance Baker Motley. And she was the first woman hired by the Legal Defense Fund. But also, she represented a lot of these people who were active in the civil rights movement. She represented them. She was with James Meredith in Ole Miss when he was trying to go to school there. So I would just want to sit down and talk to her about her journey, because we know all of these highlights, but I'm sure she had to pay a pretty price to even be able to accomplish half of what she accomplished. But even beyond that, I'm sure a lot of that came with a lot of fear. And I think that sometimes we feel like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm just this person, I can't do this, or I'm scared I'm gonna mess up. But how do you overcome fear to go on and push through and do those great things? And then Angela Davis, I would like to hope that everyone knows who Angela Davis is, but Angela Davis was instrumental in the Black liberation movement. And I would want to just talk to her. One, I feel like she's been preaching truth to power for years, but also she was one of the first people to really address the intersectionality issues, whether it's race, being a woman, class, different things like that, because you can't talk about any of these issues without acknowledging the intersectionality of it. So Black women have unique issues. Right. Class, you can't just talk about class by itself without acknowledging the issues with race, how that plays a part. Or you can't just talk about race and not talk about class as well, and how poverty and how it's all intersected. And then too, Angela Davis was just somebody who really, if you study her life, she just believed in what she believed in, and she was not seeking fame or anything like that. She just wanted to be active and involved, and because there were people who did not like her, they essentially pushed her in the spotlight. And although she had to deal with so much persecution,
absolutely,
but because of that, she's a household name, or at least she should be. So anyway, I actually just met her recently. So anyway, but I didn't sit down and have dinner with her, so I can still add her to my list of sitting down and having dinner with her. So
allow it. That's really cool. Thank you so much for talking about intersectionality. You know, when I think about intersectionality, I think of the whole person. And, you know, you're not just a lawyer. You're not just, you know, whatever identity people first see when you walk into a room. So could you tell us something that people wouldn't really know about you just from your title or from you just being an attorney?
Oh, yeah. And that's a really good transition. And it made me actually think about, that's something I have always wanted to ensure that I did not get caught up in being an attorney, because I see how, whether it's an attorney or something else, and both you and I are both part of the greatest sorority there is, but even that, I wouldn't want to be only identified that that's just a part of who I am. Being a Delta is a part of who I am. Being an attorney is a part of who I am. But like you said, there are several things that make up Cynthia. But some of the things that you wouldn't know if you looked at my resume are that I love to travel. And I'm not a go sit on a resort type of person. I like being out, exploring. My friends probably get tired of me when we out.
You travel, you on vacation, you travel.
No, I travel. I like going to places I can learn about people's culture, learn about their history. I will have some relaxation in there, but there's going to be a cultural component in there. That's one thing about me. I love to read. Most times I probably don't have a TV on at home. I'm reading a book. So I love to read. I like also being outdoors in nature. I love, unless it's cold, I love being outside. I could just sit outside for hours as long as the temperature is correct. So I think that's the biggest thing. Of course, I love family. Like, family is number one to me. I love being with my family. I love being with my extended family, people, my friends who have become my family. I love that. I love going to church. I think, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Well, it wouldn't be Black History Month if we didn't talk about the future. So what do you see for Napier-Looby in the upcoming years? What legacy do you want to leave, especially as president? Just what do you see in the realm of Black excellence that Napier-Looby is and that we are?
I see greatness in Napier-Looby's future. I do. I feel like, as it relates to my presidency, I want my legacy for my portion of the time that I've been fortunate or favored or blessed to lead this organization to be that she showed up and she did the work. She did not do a lot of talk, but she actually did the work, and the work that's meaningful in the sense that, going back to our mission, is for the advancement of Black attorneys. Also educating the public, and that's what I have tried to do. There are a lot of issues that go on that impact the Black community and our local community, so we've tried to educate people in that way, but also try to serve, whether it's with a law student or even an undergraduate student. I get emails sometimes with like, oh, can you come speak here, or can you have lunch with me? Things that don't get seen by most people because I don't mention it, but I feel like that's a part of our mission, to give back or try to help the person coming behind. So unless I'm just absolutely swamped, I usually always say yes. But also, I hope that my legacy is I did the work of Napier-Looby and I left it a little better than what I found it. And that's my goal. So we'll see. Also, as far as the future, I just only see positive things for Napier-Looby. I know there's a lot of debate, especially in this current climate, about like DEI or even whether or not affinity bar associations are needed now, because you can join the majority bar associations. And my response to that would be that affinity bars are needed more so now than not necessarily ever, because there was a time we could not join the affinity bar association, the majority bar associations. So obviously it was really needed then, but now they're still needed, because yes, I'm active in the majority bar associations, but I think there's a safety that comes with being a part of like-minded people, or hopefully like-minded people, or people who have some of the same experiences as you as a Black attorney in Nashville. I think there's a safety and a comfort that comes along with being in that. Somebody to have, or to build a community amongst members of Napier-Looby, to where you can say, hey, Amber, this happened, what are your thoughts on that? Because you may have experienced something similar, or also understand why I may feel a certain type of way, even if I'm wrong. Saying, hey, maybe you want to look at it from this angle, but because you are also a Black woman, right, you may know why I would have perceived something a certain type of way, but also to have programming geared towards the needs of Black attorneys, because I feel like our experiences, while maybe similar to other people, they still have certain unique things that come along with that, just like non-Black folks have unique experiences that we just do not have. So I think that Napier-Looby has a bright future, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I will continue to support. I'm gonna get out the way for the next president, but I will be there to support and continue to advocate, because I think Napier-Looby is needed. Napier-Looby was founded by people who were very instrumental in the civil rights era movement. Yeah, on the front lines. We talk about right across the street, or a street over at the what's the place where they did the sit-ins at the counters, where you see pictures from the sit-ins that took place in Nashville, and it was Napier-Looby on the front lines of that. And so Napier-Looby is not an organization that's just, they just doing this. Like, no, it was founded for the advancement of Black attorneys and the community and advocate for folks. And I'm excited about its future. So
I'm excited as well. We are more than on our way under your leadership to that future that you just outlined. And we thank you so much for watching. If this is the first video you're seeing, we have a whole series on our social media platforms. So feel free to catch up on those. Follow us and see all that we're doing in the Nashville community and beyond. Do you have anything you want to close out with?
No, just thank you so much for taking time to do this interview. It was a lot of fun. It was, and thank you to all of those people who have participated. I think this Black History Month, it was important to highlight people who are doing the work and who have done the work. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in, liked, shared, and volunteered their time. So just thank you.
Thank you. Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.